I'm Teisha Bader with Shalom TV's news update from Monday, April the 14th, 2014. A suspect has been named in the shooting attacks that took place yesterday at a Jewish community center and a Jewish retirement community in Kansas that left 3 people dead. He is 73-year-old Frazier Glenn Miller, reportedly a founder and former leader of the Carolina Knights of the Ku Klux Klan and the White Patriot Party, originally from Missouri. Miller, who also goes by Frazier Glenn Cross, is accused of the 2 shooting incidents yesterday, one at the Jewish Community Center of Greater Kansas City in Overland Park and at the Village Shalom Retirement Community in Leawood, Kansas. 3 people were killed in the incidents, 2 in front of the JCC. They have been identified as 14-year-old Reet Griffin Underwood and his grandfather, Dr. William Lewis Corcoran. Both were members of the United Methodist Church of the Resurrection. Corcoran was driving his grandson to the JCC to audition for a singing competition there. While in their car outside of the community center, the 2 were shot. Corcoran died at the scene. Underwood died shortly thereafter at the hospital. A woman said to be in her 70s was later shot and killed at the Village Shalom Retirement Community in Leawood. She has not been named. Miller, the suspected shooter, is said to be a known racist with a history of anti-Semitic violence and hate crimes. He and other members of a group called The Order were accused of murdering liberal Jewish talk show host Alan Berg in Denver, Colorado in 1984. Miller reportedly yelled a Nazi slogan while being taken away in a police car yesterday. Overland Park Police Chief John Douglas told reporters yesterday that it was premature to call Sunday's incident hate crimes.
It's too early in the investigation to try to label it. We know it's a vicious act of violence, and obviously at 2 Jewish facilities, one might make that assumption, but we're going to have to know more about it before we'll label it.
An investigation by local police together with the FBI is ongoing. Jewish organizations responded with shock and sadness at the shootings, which come just before the Passover holiday. But they also urged the public not to jump to any conclusions before the investigation has been completed. Regional Director of the Anti-Defamation League St. Louis office, Karen Aresti, said that the attacks on the Jewish community centers in Overland Park are a cowardly, unspeakable, and heinous act of violence. She said while it is too early to label these shootings as a hate crime, the fact that 2 Jewish institutions were targeted by the same individual just prior to the start of the Passover holiday is deeply troubling.
Morning, our prayers are with
U.S. President Barack Obama called the shootings heartbreaking and horrific and sent his thoughts and prayers out to the families of the victims, as did Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
Community center and a retirement home.
Israeli and Palestinian negotiators reportedly met yesterday in another effort to try and salvage the deadlocked peace talks. Palestinian news agency Ma'an said negotiators held a 3-hour meeting last night. Ynet said the meeting was attended by Chief Palestinian negotiator Saeb Erekat, Israeli Justice Minister Tzipi Livni, and Prime Minister Netanyahu's special envoy Yitzhak Molcho, along with the head of Palestinian intelligence Majid Faraj. U.S. peace envoy and mediator Martin Indyk was not present at the meeting. Indyk is currently back in Washington and not expected to return back to Israel until later this week. PLO sources told Ma'an that during the meeting of the Palestinian team had rejected Israeli chief negotiator Livni's call for the Palestinians to withdraw their applications to join 15 international treaties and bodies, and that the Palestinians also called for Israel to place a total freeze on settlement construction before moving on to any other issues. Prior to last night's reported meeting, Palestinian chief negotiator Erekat denied that such a meeting was to take place. He said the sides were waiting for Indyk to return before reconvening. Meanwhile, Israel reportedly took measures in response to the Palestinians' unilateral actions earlier this month. This past Thursday, it was reported that Israel would freeze the transfer of funds it collects on the Palestinian Authority's behalf, in response to the Palestinians applying to the 15 international bodies, conventions, and treaties earlier this month. There were also reports that Israel might suspend its participation with the Palestinians in developing a gas field off the Gaza Strip. U.S. State Department spokesperson Jen Psaki said on Friday that there had not been any official public announcement of these measures from the government of Israel, but that if in fact they were accurate, the U.S. would regard such developments as unfortunate. Psaki said, "We believe that the regular transfer of the Palestinian Authority's tax revenues and economic cooperation between Israel and the Palestinian Authority has been beneficial and is important to the well-being of the Palestinian economy." Palestinian official Nabil Shath reportedly said that the PA would not be deterred by Israel's actions in continuing to seek membership in international treaties and conventions. Israel has stated several times that it will not accept such unilateral actions by the PA, that they violate the agreement that the parties had when peace talks restarted this past July, where Israel agreed to free 103 Palestinian security prisoners, and the Palestinians agreed not to take such unilateral steps. And Israeli Knesset members were planning on meeting with PA President Mahmoud Abbas this week to also try and make some headway in the stalled talks. Labor Party Minister Hilik Bar, who heads the caucus to solve the Israeli-Arab conflict, together with several other lawmakers from both the opposition and the coalition parties, plan to meet with Abbas on Wednesday in Ramallah. Congressional leaders announced last week that a sapling from the tree that Anne Frank wrote about in her diary that grew outside the attic where she and her family hid from the Nazis will be planted on the west front lawn of the U.S. Capitol building at the end of this month. House Speaker John Boehner and Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid wrote in a letter to members of Congress that the Anne Frank Memorial Tree is an offspring of the horse chestnut tree that was featured in Anne's diary writings. Saplings from that tree have been planted all over the world. This one will be planted at the U.S. Capitol during a special ceremony on April the 30th. Jews in Warsaw have donated Passover food items to Jews celebrating the holiday in Ukraine. A 200-pound shipment of food arrived from Warsaw to Lviv this past Friday. They were taken then to the city of Ivano-Frankivsk, whose Jewish community was short on food ahead of the holiday. Poland's Chief Rabbi Michael Shudrich said his community was grateful to be able to help others in greater need than themselves. As Jews around the world prepare for the Passover holiday, which begins this evening, Jerusalem's Western Wall, or Kotel, has also been cleaned and prepped for the holiday. Rabbi of the Western Wall, Shmuel Rabinowitz, and his team have cleared hundreds of thousands of notes from the cracks and crevices of the ancient stones, placed there over the past year by people offering up prayers on the pieces of paper. In order to make sure that there is enough room for future prayers, Rabinowitz's team collects the notes that are later buried twice a year, once before Passover and once before the Jewish New Year, Rosh Hashanah. And turning to our Shalom TV programming for tonight, Monday, April the 14th, Passover begins this evening, and coming up at 6 o'clock, a Shalom TV exclusive City Winery Seder, a model Seder at Michael Dorf's City Winery with Dr. Ruth Westheimer, Israeli singer David Broza, musical group Soul Farm, performer Judy Gold, and many other artists who add their creativity to the timeless Exodus story and its universal message of freedom. Make sure to check shalomtv.com for more special Passover programming. And that's Shalom TV's news update from Monday, April the 14th, 2014. I'm Teisha Bader, and I will be back with you on Thursday, wishing you a wonderful and happy Passover holiday. Chag Sameach.